about it. I think part of what's going on is the thing they're upset about is not actually Republican policies, because I think there's not a lot to be upset about. They're upset we're picking off their voters. That's actually what's going on. Don't fish in our pond. There's a little bit of territorialism. We own these people. And I don't mean that in a loaded sense. I mean it in an accurate sense. They view this as our pond. The Democrats view it. Don't come over and invade our pond.
So it seems like the focus of Vivek Ramaswamy recently has been bringing in new voters for the GOP. And you heard that in his RNC speech a couple weeks ago. He tried to make a direct appeal to voting demographics that don't typically swing for the Republicans. And recently he went on the Megyn Kelly Show to discuss this more in detail and kind of try to make that case to the independents, to the young voters, etc., about the GOP. And I want to take a listen to it here because I think it's pretty interesting and a little bit compelling. So that said, if you enjoy the content, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you are new. And without further ado, let's get into this.
So the Republicans, like you're not allowed to raise law and order anymore because you objected to what was done to President Trump with the lawfare.
Yeah, well, the reality is that, too, is a violation of law and order, Megyn. And one of the things I also said in this speech was addressing black Americans, where I think this issue actually does land, is that for a long time, Republicans were maybe a little tone deaf to black Americans who have said for a long time the justice system was unfair. Well, the reality is we don't want a justice system that's unfair, either on the basis of your skin color or your political beliefs. So I think this culture of the abandonment of the rule of law actually runs deep. The same reason we have the southern border crisis is in many ways linked to the reason why we have an abandonment of the rule of law, when the people at the top of the chain themselves view the law as an inconvenience. People at the DOJ, people at even investigative agencies like the FBI, local prosecutors like those who have abused the law to not only pursue lawfare against President Trump, but even countless other politically unsympathetic defendants. That is part of a cultural breakdown. And so, you know what? I disagree with her characterization that it's either or. They go together.
So
and I think that's what we need to restore.
Over on
a very strong point, by the way. The persecution of Trump does not reflect law and order. That's a silly argument. It reflects lawlessness, right? That's what happens actually in a third world banana republic state, is the law is weaponized. It's not applied to most people, but some people, the opponents of the regime, it's harshly applied to and unfairly applied to. So, you know, I think that's actually a very strong way to look at it.
I mean, I watch all the channels because I love seeing reactions to all this stuff. Van Jones was saying, I don't think black people want to be patronized like Vivek did. So any outreach by a Republican to black voters saying, you know what, because you had a great part in your speech about that, that's patronizing, that you're not allowed to do. It's better just to remain silent and not seek their vote, you see.
Yeah.
By the way, let's not forget what Kamala Harris was doing a couple nights ago.
And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024.
And by the way, the history of Democrats doing that long predates Kamala Harris's candidacy. Let's also not forget that.
Got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
So anyways, just thought I should bring that up on the topic of this discussion. Let's get back into this.
And so I think that AOC was reacting to my speech last night as well. She was rather frenetic about it. I think part of what's going on is the thing they're upset about is not actually Republican policies, because I think there's not a lot to be upset about. They're upset we're picking off their voters. That's actually what's going on. Don't fish in our pond. There's a little bit of territorialism. We own these people. And I don't mean that in a loaded sense. I mean it in an accurate sense. They view this as our pond. The Democrats view it. Don't come over and invade our pond. What actually, the way we look at it is every American ought to be persuaded based on the merits of what you're offering them. And a lot of black voters, a lot of Hispanic voters, a lot of gay voters are actually saying, you know what, the Republican Party isn't the one that it was portrayed to be, and in some sense isn't the one that it was 20 years ago.
So look, don't worry, because CNN did have on a Republican to defend you. It was Jonah Goldberg of the Dispatch.
Oh, really? I missed that.
It was terrible.
Okay.
It was so mean. I was like, he clearly doesn't like you. I won't bore you with what he said, but I was
Never
like,
met him, but
that's the defense? Like, you know, this is the new CNN with the fair and balanced, you know, commentary in response to one of the stars at the convention. Yeah. Somebody who hates him and somebody who hates him more.
You know, I think part of me last year, every time this would happen, would take this as the short-term thing as a reactionary impulse, as a badge of honor. And it sort of is. But it's also kind of sad in the country where I would love the country that I knew, where we could debate vigorously, like not in some sort of lighthearted kid gloves kind of way, but debate like hell, really disagree on the issues, but to still be friends at the end of it, or if not friends, at least have some level of mutual respect to say that we actually care about the country, but we have deeply differing visions. And I think much of what the modern left, particularly in the media, has become is to use the issue of labeling. So whether Trump was, you could say, insurrectionist to dictator to rapist. Now Trump itself is become too popular that they're replacing it with fill in the blank, Project 2025, whatever you want to call it.
That's right.
They have to have some label that...
Project 2025 named, by the way. I think we might as well start like a drinking game or something for that, because the amount of times that such an obscure political nonprofit project has become the biggest talking point of the 2024 election is just hilarious to me.
Affixes an emotional response to that label rather than actually engaging in just an underlying debate on the merits, which is too bad for the country.
Yeah.
Because I think the Republican Party would be better off if we were challenged by the best version of the other side, but we're not getting that today.
It's so true.
It's too bad.
It was, and again, it's not important, but it was a personal attack. You know, it was his feelings about you and your ambition or whatever it was, but it was not on the merits. It did not take on the substance.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, there's a reason.
It's just too bad. I just don't think the country's better off for that.
The AOC tweet, which you referred to, reads as follows: young people don't take well to bigoted leaders who attack LGBTQ rights, outlaw abortion, cozy up to gun manufacturers and oil execs, and support a rapist for a president. If you want to be cool so badly, try giving a damn about other people beyond yourself. Might open a few doors. So the problem here is the young people are taking well to Republicans. These are not things that Republicans stand for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's precisely what they're scared of in regards to the recent Gen Z beef that we talked about before. AOC feels threatened, right? Because these are voter groups that the Dems have long had a monopoly on, and suddenly they're realizing, oh, wait a minute, all this Project 2025 stuff is not landing so much anymore. Young people care about their future. They want to be able to own a home and live the American dream, and we talk nothing about that, but we talk about all this culture war stuff. Uh-oh. Let's bring up Project 2025 again, okay? They always do this.
So she's just pronouncing this is what they want, and yet the polls are showing us something different this election.
Absolutely. And that, I think, is just the beginning of a tidal wave that's coming. So she was responding to a section of my speech where I directly addressed Gen Z. And again, it's fishing in their pond that they're offended by.
How to be revolutionary.
Absolutely. And I think the revolutionary thing right now is to say something maybe different than what you're expected to say on your college campus. Call yourself a conservative is what I said. And I do think that that's the more rebellious move today.
Totally.
But nonetheless, one of the interesting things about the tack she took is she at least was a little bit more elegant than some of the CNN people trying to wrap it around a policy disagreement. Let's just double click on that for a second. She talks about gay rights. This is the Republican platform right now. Is the Republican platform as it exists today at this convention is not opposed to gay marriage.
No.
She points to abortion, women in their bodies. Literally, this has said it is not a federal issue. Donald Trump, to myself when I ran for president, to now the Republican Party, opposes a federal ban on abortion. So part of their strategy now, Megyn, seems to be there's only 4 months left on the election, until the election. Just tell the voters something other than the Republican policies, because the actual Republican policy platform is quite appealing to most Americans. So we can't compete on that. Just assume for the next 4 months we can tell them that the Republican platform is something that is other than what it actually is, and maybe most voters won't notice.
Yeah, they can only argue against straw man. And maybe some social conservatives would make the argument that these types of things should be in the Republican platform, but you can see they're unable to have a debate on even the real Republican platform, you know?
It might be their best bet, actually. If you think about it, winning on the merits in this short of a time with the numbers looking like what they are, instead, people get their news from different places. Just bet on the fact that enough Americans are going to think that Republicans support a federal ban. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have both said Donald Trump would sign a federal ban. That's false. In fact, he's taken heat from Republicans for saying that he's opposed to a federal ban.
That's right.
But their strategy now seems to be less on the merits and even less on the histrionics. It's one of the forks in the road for Biden, which I can come back to in a second. But the remaining strategy is just lie about what the Republicans actually believe and then just hope the voters don't notice between now and November.
So there you have it, Vivek Ramaswamy talking about some of his strategies to reach new voters in the Republican electorate. I'm all here for it, obviously. Like, you want to win the election, we need as many people as possible. At the same time, I would still be careful, and I would say this to Vivek, I'd still be careful about not forgetting the original voters that got Trump elected to begin with. But that said, it's always good to expand the coalition. And yeah, it's very telling that, especially, notice how mad AOC was when Vivek went after Gen Z and said, hey, maybe there's a case you want to be a rebel, you know, vote Republican, all this stuff. She's mad. And she's precisely mad because we're starting to hit them where it hurts. Not only did the young vote used to be a lock for the Democrats, but on top of that, they know what we know, which is that my generation, our generation, is the future of this country. And so if the polls are starting to show, especially a lot of young men are starting to rise up, lean toward the Republicans, lean towards Trump, not a good sign for their future, for sure. That said, folks, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Follow me on X, link down in the description. And until next time, God bless and peace.